This is Oft Off Topic, a show where two men with the attention spans of a squirrel try and fail to stay on topic with today's subject. Where will their oral meanderings take us? Well, stick around and listen, because today's Oft Off Topic is...
Part 2 of our series on Akira Toriyama. In the first episode, we discussed Toriyama's childhood, his reason for getting into the manga industry, and his difficulties doing so. We pick up this episode with me and Nate discussing Dragon Ball Z.
So, yeah, Dragon Ball Z is where the series goes from whimsical adventure to a testosterone-fueled fighting anime. It's when Goku went from little kid to full-grown adult that it became, action-packed and far more fighting and this and that. And there's actually kind of a reason for this, believe it or not. You want to know why, Nate? Do you? Well, the reason is because when Goku was tiny with his little stubby kid arms and stuff, it was actually kind of tricky and hard to have him fight adults and keep the proportions right and everything, trying to, angle his arms and legs and stuff, inside of like somebody full-grown adult. That's actually why they gave him a stick early on, is because it was easier to just draw him like hitting somebody with a stick than it was getting close and kicking and punching him. So in order to get around this, they were just like, let's just make him an adult so he has, normal proportions. Granted, they stuck to it with Krillin and stuff, but...
Well, also knows Krillin didn't really do much.
Exactly, he really didn't. He had a couple of fight scenes, but yeah, it was usually Krillin goes in for the kick and then gets leveled. So yeah even kind of the same with Gohan too off the start. He would just sort of do his like powered up headbutt fly at you. So yeah, when I read that, it totally clicked. They even have like pictures from the manga too, where it's like a picture of young Goku fighting somebody, and it's kind of like they had to draw his legs so it's actually like twice as long as it normally is to make it look good. But in order to make that look right, they had to like block it off a little bit by somebody's gi. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, if you break this down, Goku's leg is a lot longer than it should be. So anyways, they're like, hey, this is hard to draw, so let's just make him full-sized. And Dragon Ball Z, Toriyama did have some input on that too, which was like he had, Yamcha's baseball career. He had that story. That was not in the manga, added for the anime alone. Toriyama also helped design Snake Road. And he was
Yamcha is a total puss. I mean, in comparison to the rest of the Z fighters, I mean, he's like the weakest. But he's still stronger than the average human, so it was totally not fair for him to join like a baseball league.
He is, I think, like technically the second strongest human behind Krillin on the planet for actual like straight humans.
Who's the guy with? I mean, the guy with three eyes. Again,
he doesn't count. I think he's a god or something like that. Or
okay, because again, he's from Dragon Ball. I know he shows in Dragon Ball Z. Him and that little baby
Chaozu.
And I mean,
the guy who blows himself up with a annoying voice.
He's like, oh no, Chaozu! Like, well, that sucks. I don't know who he was, And then the guy with three eyes shows up like, oh, okay, this guy has three eyes. Sure, why not? It's anime, why not?
Yeah.
So I watched a little, the little bit of Dragon Ball I've seen. In passing, it's like, okay, I see they're introducing this guy. Oh, he was a bad guy originally? All right, well, whatever. So even Piccolo, like when they first introduced Piccolo in Dragon Ball Z, they're like, clearly there was some kind of history there, and they kind of allude to him being a bad guy in the beginning, but it was like brief because Raditz was there. The first it's kind of like
Piccolo, here the whole crowd is here all of a sudden. Just accept it.
Yeah, and they're like, here he is, and they're like, oh, Piccolo, you're mean. We don't know you. Like, well, clearly he's on your side now because of Raditz.
Yeah, which it feels like a downgrade because in the original Dragon Ball part, Piccolo was actually considered a god because they're like, ooh, it's the god of the planet, the evil side of the god, because you had Kami and Piccolo, which is good and bad gods.
Right.
Yeah. So he just
goes from being like Kami was like so old, and he was who cares, whatever.
Also, too, Piccolo had that cool like arm like lengthening thing where he could make his arms really long. That was really big at the beginning of the series, kind of went away, and then sort of became big at the end again. Or also his ability to make himself huge, which I never really saw the point of that because it makes them bigger but doesn't make them more powerful.
Well, so he makes you go bigger target.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't know.
And then of course, once you start introducing characters that can like blow up planets by accidentally,
right?
It's like
all you gotta do is just point two fingers forward and blow up a planet.
Although I did hear someone mention their theory, and I'm sure they didn't think of it, but it was intelligent enough that I was like, I'll roll with this. It's actually pretty decent. The whole joke of Frieza's like, I'm gonna blow this planet up in like 5 minutes or whatever, even though he previously had blown up a planet in seconds, and so did Vegeta. But he goes to blow the planet up, and then meanwhile, 25 episodes later, the planet's still there. And someone was saying, well, they're fighting, but they're moving so fast that to them it's a long time. But for like the average view, like if someone was there on the planet, it'd be like just seconds or whatever, or minutes. And I'm like, I guess, but they still show the trees blowing at the same
Say
speed.
one, it is true that the time goes by faster when they're fighting. Two, it doesn't work for that scene because there's plenty of times where they zip over to the Namek towns and everybody's just talking, acting normally. So
Yeah, it's like I want to go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But the moment you
No.
start putting some real pressure on that thought
Okay.
thinking, it's like, no.
Here's my theory too. You'll like this one better. It's Frieza is doing the old school villain thing like Red Death from Venture Brothers. Was that his name? Red Death, Red Skull, Red Skeleton, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
Where he's just like, I gotta build up the suspense for it. I'll blow up this planet slowly. Tick tock. Tick tock. Will I blow it up now or soon? You have a time limit. Panic now, mortals. I mean, so that seems kind of Frieza-y, doesn't it? And I think actually
that's more Frieza. I mean, I don't know. I think he's more of I think he's less a mustachioed villain tying people to train tracks and more just like, I'm gonna blow this place up.
Yeah.
Or is it that Tick villain, the Mad Bomber who bombs at midnight?
The Mad Bomber, what bombs at midnight?
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Derailed.
Dragon Ball Z Abridged actually had a reason for the Frieza thing that we were talking about, but I don't remember what their rationale was behind it.
That really is like
I think it was literally just like, hey, Frieza, can't you just blow this up quick? He's like, shut up, that's why, or something like that.
Yeah,
which is a good enough reason.
I like their interpretation of what happened way better.
Dragon Ball Z Abridged is the best way to watch it. Everybody listening to this right now, go on YouTube and watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Here's the thing. The first season is kind of rough, but it gets better really quick. And also keep in mind the first season, well, the whole thing is just done by a very small group of people on like a very limited budget. So all things considered, even their roughest episodes are really good quality, all things considered.
Yeah, the
very first...
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say the very first scene too is when Raditz flies down and crashes in front of that farmer. The farmer like runs out and goes, "Oh no, not my weed farm." Yeah. Anyways, go ahead.
Oh, I flashed to Vegeta's laying there, and I don't remember the scene, but like Vegeta's in the water, and he's like, says something. What is this feeling? The feeling of pride in somebody else. Unfortunately, it's overshadowed by my unbridled rage.
Yes. They actually make Vegeta such a good and layered character in that. Also, one thing about Yamcha, too, that he has over most people, he actually got to have sex with Bulma. So there's that.
Oh, there you
go. Yeah. He always gets to hold that over Vegeta's head, too.
And why Vegeta doesn't kill him, like, even offhand. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to blow up his house with him in it.
And yeah, I think it was a Dragon Ball Z Abridged. Vegeta admits it because he respects Yamcha because he's so weak, yet he still shows sass towards Vegeta. He still has the ability to talk back. He's like, you know what? I could kill you in a heartbeat, but I respect the fact that you just tell me off anyways, kind of thing.
That's great.
Yeah. So here's a fun fact. Like we were talking about, in the manga, there is no Dragon Ball Z, only Dragon Ball and Zool. Apparently the reason for
Zool?
And Zool. There is no Dragon Ball, only Zool. Apparently the reason for the Dragon Ball Z coming about is actually sort of clever. So, see, when they were doing the Dragon Ball anime, the actual cartoon, every time they were like negotiating off their original contract. So, the Dragon Ball anime came out, they're like, hey, we're going to do an anime on this. And, as all studios are, they're like, this will probably be a hit, but we're not sure. So we're not going to give you a ton of money right off the bat, right? So anyways, as Dragon Ball goes along and gets more and more popular, they only have so much negotiating power off the base contract. So they're like, hey, we're going to go over to this big transition now. We cancel the Dragon Ball series, relaunch it as Dragon Ball Z, get a brand new contract to start out with, and we can negotiate off of that one and start getting more money. So basically, if they had kept it as Dragon Ball, they would have still had their initial, baseline contract they'd have to negotiate off of from way back when that wasn't that much. But rebooting as Dragon Ball Z, they'd be like, hey, we're restarting this, and you know how popular it is, so give us money. Lots of it. It's kind of like an Elvira level move for negotiating on that. Remember when she just kind of nickel and dimed all the rights away from them? Because they're like, we can't pay you more money. They're like, yeah. Check out that episode of Oft Off Topic on Elvira. So here is a little fun side fact. You will see a meme that says, after every new Dragon Ball Z release, there's a 2-day dip in Mexican cartel crime. There's no hard evidence of this, though. And also, if you want to go conspiracy theory mode, some people think that the cartel put out that meme to humanize them and make them seem like not such bad guys.
Sorry we killed your family, but we're not that bad guys.
Hey, well, that's what I was saying. He's like, hey, big old gang war over drugs. Oh, that's bad. Big old gang war over argument of Dragon Ball Z. I can see that. Yeah,
Really.
yeah. I mean,
Well,
honestly, it
what's
sounds
their
stupid, but
arguments?
it kind of is. Yeah. Who's better, Yamcha or Vegeta?
Well, that's not even a question. I think anybody who says
I actually, I
Yamcha
guess I
needs to be
should say
shot in
who's
the
a better
face repeatedly.
who is a better spouse to Bulma?
See, here we go. We're going to the
Ha!
territory I'm not that familiar with, but I would say Vegeta. But
He was the one that put the baby in her.
very true. I mean, he also disappears a lot. So
Here's another fun fact. You remember how Goku had a tail at the whole start of the thing? The whole Dragon Ball adventure?
Yep.
Eventually the tail gets removed. And do you want to know why this is, Nate?
he hated drawing it
Sort of. Do you want to know the reason why he hated drawing it?
because it looked like a penis.
No. I never thought it looked like a penis. I mean, maybe it looks like
Well, I mean, I don't really think so either. But it's like it's a long shaft thing.
And now we know what Nate's penis looks like. It looks like Goku's tail. Long and
I
floppy.
wrap it around my waist.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Dude, I try not to look at any sexy ladies for fear of like smacking somebody.
Just get erect, your tail or your penis just like unwraps around your own waist. Flap. All right. So the reason Toriyama got rid of the tail is not because it's too hard to draw, but because Toriyama thinks a little too much. This is something you might relate to, Nate, especially after our recent Dune conversation. Quote from Toriyama. This is his direct quote. It's just that I'm always thinking about how things are supposed to work. So it was a real pain to figure out how he had put his pants on or stuff like that. That always bugged me the most. Is there a hole in the pants? Does he out his tail through the hole first, then put the pants on? So that just made me want to get rid of the darn thing, which I did. So yeah, basically drawing it, he just had too many questions on how a tail would work in real life.
There's a hole in the pants. Period.
Yeah, hole in the pants. I would assume so. After hearing your questions about Dune and the baskets on the back of the worm,
Oh, yeah.
I was like, you could probably relate to that a little bit. This makes no logical sense.
I mean, I don't know. Whatever. Do they do multiple passes? You know,
Yeah.
do they catapult them on there? I don't know.
Yeah. Although it would be kind of weird having a hole in your pants and having to like thread your tail through first and put them on. I mean, not that hard, but it would add kind of a weird step.
It would be a weird step.
Yeah. Anywho, there you go. There's Toriyama's problem with tails. Where do they go? And another fun Toriyama fact: his favorite Dragon Ball character is Piccolo, which he's probably my second favorite behind Vegeta, just because he is kind of a badass with a heart of gold.
He is a badass. Vegeta's my favorite, but
Yeah, Vegeta's everybody's favorite, I think.
I don't know. I don't think Piccolo.
Piccolo.
I don't think he's even on the board for me. Like top, 5.
Who's your top 5 then? Ooh?
See, I didn't even ask that.
Ha! Well, Piccolo's not my top 5. Who is? I have no idea, but not him.
He's number 1. I want to say part of it's like boo, but yeah. You'll forgive me. I'm not like.
It's okay. You actually don't even have to answer that. I just kind of asked you.
Well,
I called you out on your. You're
You
like,
did
I
call
want
me
to know
out.
now.
Well, but I just knew that it wasn't on there.
Yeah. Actually, I shouldn't even say he's my second favorite, but I know he's up there. I just like his no nonsense attitude.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I like.
I guess I like Frieza. I guess I kind of like just all the bad guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Cell's pretty cool, but then again, I have to tell you, Cell has been affected by all the side stuff. Like there's this 3D animation. You know what I'm talking about online.
The
There's
Home
like
for
Hidden
Infinite
Kermit.
Losers.
Well, the Home for Infinite Losers is definitely like a good one. But there's another one where he's like good friends with Kermit the Frog. Have you seen those?
I have not.
You haven't seen those? You should totally
have
check it
not.
out. I don't know what it is.
I
I don't know where it
should.
came from. I get a lot of clips of it, but like him and Kermit the Frog are like buddies, and it is bonkers. It is hilarious.
Also, sometimes it's hard for me to pick my favorite Dragon Ball Z characters because I also conflate them with the Dragon Ball Z abridged characters, and it's totally different. Like Dragon Ball Z abridged, Mr. Popo might be my favorite character almost because they changed him up a whole lot.
Yeah, I definitely like how what they did with him.
Yeah, and also Mr. Popo, possibly one of the strongest characters in all of Dragon Ball Z, the whole Dragon Ball universe. They base it off of one scene where he goes up against who is it? It's like Vegeta's and Goku's like smallest kids show up and double team him, and he whoops their butts pretty much. Anyways, let's get back
children.
to.
He's the strongest ever.
Yep, exactly. That's how I prove how tough I am. I just hang outside of elementary school, pick the smallest one, and just go to town on him. Shove him down. Yep. Give me your Sonic the Hedgehog backpack, you little kid. So 1993 through 1995, and the Toriyama art exhibition hits museums in Japan. This is a pretty big deal because he is only the second ever manga artist to achieve this milestone. The only other person to do it? One of Toriyama's heroes and the creator of Astro Boy, Osamu Tezuka. Who, actually, that dude might be the only manga legend bigger than Toriyama, I think, in Japan. Maybe, even then it's arguable.
In Japan, but not really here.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
not
thing,
here, because
like,
Astro Boy wasn't that really big over here, unless,
he wasn't. I mean, I knew of him, but I
yeah,
don't.
Speed Racer was kind of the big OG one around here that was got everybody's interest. But even then, I never really saw Speed Racer. And
Yeah, I don't know. The few times I watched Speed Racer, it's whatever.
static images with the mouth barely moving.
Yep. And there's also
And the
great
stories weren't even
clips
that
are
great
just-
either, really.
Yeah, clips taken out of context. I don't. There's one was like, "Oh no, my mom's dad's like, well, that sucks. Get in the car. We have a race
Ah,
together."
yep, that is one thing. The style of that does lead to really easy dubbing or
And
after
what
dubbing.
is it? What else is there? Oh, I'm a racist. You're like, what? I'm the best racist ever.
May 23rd, 1995, and the manga of Dragon Ball finally wraps up. All done. Yay, Toriyama can finally relax and move on to other things. The next year, the anime Dragon Ball GT came out. And Toriyama didn't have a whole lot of input on this, as he was basically done with Dragon Ball Z and kind of burned out on it. But he
Yeah, I
did give them
remember
the blessing to
hearing
go
that
ahead.
I remember here he was like took a step back,
Yeah.
like GT. It's like GT's not canon because he didn't do it.
Yeah, and also too, there's some like kind of mixed reports that I've seen where it's like the official statement from like the animation companies and stuff and the mangas are always like, ooh, this new Dragon Ball thing has Toriyama's blessing and he's approved all this, that, and he's been helping with it. But if you actually like read Toriyama's interviews, it's kind of like when they ask him about all the new Dragon Ball stuff, like after the manga ended and Dragon Ball Z, he's just like, I mean, they did hit me up for like my input on stuff, but I just kind of rubber stamped yes it because they knew what they were doing and I didn't want to get too much. And again, he was basically done with it at the time.
Yeah, the stamp is like rubber
Yep.
stamp. The stamp saying
Exactly. And
Like, I don't
he
care.
did. There was a
See me
couple
on
of things apparently that he was like, yeah, I don't want you to do this. Please change this or, change the tone of this. But yeah, basically, you get what I'm saying. You get what I am laying down.
Why is Trunks? Why did Trunks give him a sword for a giant dildo? No.
Yeah. Ha. He's running around with a poo on a stick instead.
There you go.
Actually, poo on a stick was one of the things they used in Dr. Slump as a weapon, which made me
Yeah, I
realize
saw that. I saw some
Yeah.
of those things like it was poo and a stick.
Yep, poo on a stick. Be an effective weapon. Nobody wants poo on a stick coming after them.
I was thinking when I think poo and stick, though, I was thinking of a Upright Citizen Brigade.
Ha.
You ever see that? They were like they actually went out in the streets and they had a vendor and they were advertising poo and a stick as a deterrent for crime.
I don't think
Like,
I've seen that one.
They're like, watch, and they just walk up to someone with a poo and the stick, and they're like, see, look, he's backing away.
I mean, that probably is about how it worked. Go to mug somebody, they just whip out poo on a stick. You're like, yeah. Then you got to carry around poo on a stick with you everywhere.
Yeah, that's the downside.
Yeah.
Is you can now carry poo and a stick.
Right. So 1995, this season contributed to arguably his third greatest work ever, or maybe his best, depending on who you are. Chrono Trigger, inarguably one of the top 5 JRPGs of all time.
Yeah, it really is. I
Inarguably
keep
one
on
of the
being
greatest.
re-download it from my phone so I can play it again and actually get the character.
Yeah. Wait,
Actually,
was
you know what?
were
That's what it
Oh no, you're
was.
playing
I
on your
played-
DS and stuff on your
I
phone.
think I played on my phone. I think so happened. I played on my
Well,
phone. That's why I couldn't beat. That's why I couldn't get that
I
stupid
know
game.
some of those phone ports are super buggy and crappy too, so that might be it. Because I remember reading some people being like, people getting really excited over the Square bringing to the phones, and then immediately people being like, "These are awful. These are dog crap." So I don't know.
I
We'll
mean,
research
Dragon
that. We'll,
Quest-
we'll get you into Chrono Trigger. We'll
The
get
Dragon
you
Quest
into it.
9 was actually really, really good. I played that on my phone, and again,
Yes.
I that was really well done.
That wasn't a Square game getting remade.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
That was one.
Well, kind of different things, I guess, because Square and Enix used to be different companies.
That's
Enix
true.
being arguably the better company because they knew what their fans wanted. More Akira Toriyama. But yeah, some of the Chrono Trigger character designs are amazing, especially like Magus, one of my favorite bad guys turned good guy turned disappointment ever in a video game.
Right.
Look at me, I have the powers of a god. I can wipe out your party in 2 spells. Oh no, now I've joined you and I'm a weak little boy.
Right.
Woohoo.
I can only do bad things to good people.
Yeah.
If you're a bad guy, my powers are severely diminished.
Yeah.
I need to re-level up.
That could actually be an interesting story for a character. I have superpowers, but they only work on people of pure of heart.
Sorry, Timmy.
Yep.
I need some extra kills.
So after Dragon Ball, Akira Toriyama just kind of lays low, doing small work and enjoying his hobbies. And One thing he's really into apparently is those plastic models. You know, those little like plastic models of cars and stuff back when we were little kids that you could buy and glue together. He's even helped design some of those. I had a hot moment where I was kind of into him too, but pro tip, if you have cats, don't buy those models because cats love to knock them over. Especially if they're car-like and on wheels, because they'll just push them and watch them slide off the table. Unapologetically. And then the cat will stare at you, be like, what you gonna do about it? But there's not much you can do about it, Nate. Not much at all.
Shoot.
Anyways, after Dragon Ball, he does do release a few more mangas, such as 1996's Alien X Peak, which is about an odd alien and his wacky hijinks while he's trying to invade Earth, and it actually kind of gives Invader Zim vibes. If you want to look it up, it's Alien X Peaky, Peke. Yeah, it's basically an alien tries to invade Earth, and it finds out Earthlings are kind of weird and has hijinks. It literally looks a lot like an Invader Zim kind of thing. Whether or not Zim was based off it, who knows? Because it's not like wacky alien invasions are a thing.
Alien X Peaky?
Yep. I mean, the alien doesn't really look like Zim, but I don't know, just the overall vibe from the panels I watched.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the whole thing, like alien comes down, tries to take a world, and ends up like just kind of living here.
Main reason I mentioned this manga is because this would be the last thing Toriyama would do in standard art process, as Toei, the company, would send him a new Macintosh to help with his workflow. First mainly used for coloring and such, but then he'd go on to use it for line work and this and that. And right after he'd get that computer would be 1996's one-shot, the manga Toki Mecha, the cover of which would be the first instance of Toriyama using digital art. Outside the digital art for that, fun fact, the pen he used for it was the Pigma Graphic 1 pen. Fun fact I just came across. Also in 1996, here's a PlayStation game I forgot existed. He did the art for Tobal, the fighting game. Remember Tobal? The fighting game is kind of like Virtua Fighter, but with like really wacky guys you'd fight with, like punk gorillas and stuff.
Tobal #1?
Yep, Tobal #1. He also worked on 1997's Tobal #2, which featured Lou Bega. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody in the ring, come on and fight. Where the Tobal guy? Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, it looks familiar, but I never played it.
Tobal. I mainly remember it being one of those things that it was like big in Japan, and everybody really wanted to copy in America, but it was like a hard game to find, and thus it's probably worth tons of money. 1997, he releases Boobol and the Majin Village, which was a huge hit, winning the Shonen Jump's Reader Cup Award for the year. Kawa and Kajika were two more series he did in 97 and 98. And after that was one of the bigger things that he did of recent time, which was Sandland, which was a manga series that I forgot to write down some stuff on, sadly. But there's actually a video game coming out for it real soon. In fact, a game that I believe... Sandland, yes.
A book by Akira Toriyama.
Oh, I remember what Sandland is about. It is about an kind of a post-apocalyptic wasteland where basically the king of the land has access to all the water in the world and kind of just hoards it and is a total D-bag about it. So this sheriff teams up with a demon and they go on an adventure to find new sources of water for everybody, and high adventures happen and the day is saved, so on and so forth. Apparently, it's a pretty good comic series.
Neat.
Yeah. And if you see the pictures of it, it is very much Toriyama.
Oh yeah, it's 100% Toriyama.
Yeah. Once you see his style, you know it's him.
I mean, he has a very distinctive style.
Yeah, yes, very much so.
I mean, and just in the eyes, you look at him and see the eyes, you're immediate. It's like, okay, that's Toriyama.
He also did the art for the Xbox 360 video game Blue Dragon, which everybody was super hyped for, but I remember being a letdown. Not so much it was a bad game, but it was just an average game, and everybody was hoping it would be the next great second coming of everything.
I worked at the game store. I meant GameStop when that came out, and I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be like new kind of Dragon Quest," and it was. I mean, it sold, but it was just like, meh.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to play it, but I don't know, I never got around to it. So, would you like to know what kind of stuff Toriyama uses for his art projects, Nate? Well, you're gonna learn either way. Here's the fun fact: he likes Pilot brand ink. He likes Zebra G pens for inking. And the type of paper he uses is Kent brand paper B4 size. Not A4 like a lot of people use, B4, which is the standard manga size, I guess. And if you ever think you need expensive fancy pens or pencils to do your art with, not necessarily. For the majority of his career, Akira Toriyama, or the majority of the start of his career, Akira Toriyama just used a $1 mechanical pencil he bought at a dollar store basically thing. And he eventually lost that pencil, and he was super bummed because no matter how nice of one he bought, he said it didn't feel the same.
That sucks.
Yeah, and you probably know exactly what he's talking about because even though
Yeah,
it's cheap
you
one, he's
find a
just like,
pen or pencil that will
yeah,
really,
he's just
really
like, I
fit
just
your
love the
hand.
way this pencil felt, and even though it's a cheap one, no matter what I buy, cheap or expensive, he's like, it's just not the same. The pencil he loved so much, it used a 0.5 mm 2B lead. I find all sorts of interesting things, Nate. Also, to make panel outlines, he uses a crow's beak pen holder / ruling pen, which is kind of a neat little tool. And also, he recommends heartily when it comes to eraser choices, using an eraser whose shavings clump well together because it's much easier to clean it off with a feather brush. That's one of
Feather
those tips
brush?
that you're like, that actually makes it, yeah. So,
Yeah,
like, when he's
for
erasing
some
stuff,
reason,
he's
I
like,
like a literal feather pop in my head. Then I realized brush. Oh, hey, moron.
yeah, feathering brush, I guess, is probably
Yes,
more technical
that
term.
there, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, I know what
Yeah,
you mean.
whatever. Yep. Also, another advice he does, and this is a smart move on his part, before moving on to the coloring stages of his art, he would photocopy the original page just in case things went horribly, horribly wrong. I'm guessing he started this habit because something once went horribly, horribly wrong. That's sometimes how these things come about. You're like, how'd you learn that neat little trick? Because I messed up so many times.
Right?
March 2005, CQ Motors Company begins selling an electric car designed by Akira Toriyama, a one-person car called the Q-Volt. It's part of the company's Koro Q line of small electric cars, but only 9 were made. Cost only about $19,000 though, and had top speed of 19 miles per hour. Available in 5 colors. It's really cool. I mean, it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I think it looks like one of those old roadsters from back in the day. I would
Hmm.
totally drive one everywhere. In regards to the car, it took Toriyama about a year to design, and his quote to this is, "But due to my genius mini model construction skills, I finally arrived at the end of what was a very emotional journey designing this car." Which probably just means it was very frustrating and didn't go the way he wanted it to.
Yeah.
Yep. And right after this is 2006, and that's when the Xbox 360 game Blue Dragon came out. 2012, Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods announced, and this was kind of important because this was basically Toriyama's first like actual real involvement with a movie for in about 17 years, they would say. And yeah, basically this was just his return to doing Dragon Ball stuff. How much actual input he had into it too, but I'm not sure, but they very proudly announced like Akira Toriyama's returning for this. Yay! And of course, it's Dragon Ball Z and everybody loves Dragon Ball Z, so it went over like gangbusters.
Of course.
Yep. 2013, to celebrate the 45th anniversary of the Weekly Shonen Jump, Toriyama launched a new manga series titled Jacko the Galactic Patrolman. This one's kind of cool because it actually takes place in the Dragon Ball world, but before the series of Dragon Ball events that happens. It would be the final manga that Toriyama would write and illustrate himself, and he said it is also his personal favorite work. Yeah, I guess when Jacko the Patrolman ends, it like ends just as Dragon Ball the series is starting up, and there's like a little bit of overlap kind of thing. And I think
That's
they
pretty
even do
cool.
like a couple of those things where it's like, hey, during this big scene in Dragon Ball, Jacko's like in the background. We're gonna like retro put him in there, or he had something to do with it. I guess it's a good series, so check that out.
I
2015.
shall.
You shall. I'll see if I can find us some nice purchasable copies online I can share with you.
It's the same way. That's the same thing as like up to. It's
Yeah.
purchasable.
I spent to up to and including full cover price on this. Up
That's
to
what you
cover
did.
price. 2015, Dragon Ball Super is announced, and Toriyama is basically like, well, I'm not much for doing a Dragon Ball series anymore. You guys go right ahead. And for this, he actually decides to handpick a successor for the Dragon Ball series, a man named Toyotaru. He's a manga artist who is a lifelong fan of Toriyama, and Toriyama takes him under his wing and molds him into the Dragon Ball creator of the future. Enjoy that crushing pressure, Mr. Toyotaru.
Try not to kill
Also,
yourself.
yeah. And Mr. Toyotaru has legitimately been a lifelong fan of Dragon Ball Z. He's about our age and started reading the original manga back in the day. Actually, I think he started with Dr. Slump even. Because not only is he a Dragon Ball fan, he's like an actual, Toriyama fan as well. Because who isn't? 2017, the Paradise Papers are released. 13.4 million confidential documents are released naming names of people using offshore tax havens to hide their incomes from the government. Toriyama is one of 12 Japanese people named on the list. Along with Queen Elizabeth and Justin Trudeau are on this list as well.
Mm.
Ooh. Well, I did some research in that. Apparently, mainly what it comes down to is he invested in a U.S. real estate company, and they were the one doing some really shady accounting methods. And whether or not Akira Toriyama knew that they were doing shady stuff, who knows? Probably not, to be honest, because I'm guessing he would have done a better job. But yeah, probably one of those things is just like, hey, I have the deal for you. You want to throw some money my way? And he's like, I'm rich. Sure. But
Here's
still,
some money. I'm
yeah.
granting you.
So there you go. Akira Toriyama, tax dodger? Maybe?
You can't prove it one way or the other.
Yes. It's late 2017, and we'll have a fun little side story here. The Goku versus Jiren storyline is huge in Dragon Ball Super, and it's about to pay off in big ways with the final fight between the two. Not Final Fight, the Capcom game. Anyways,
Wait.
and as you may or may not know, Dragon Ball is huge in Mexico. It might be bigger in Mexico than anywhere else in the world, or in all of Latin America. This
Oh,
kind of
really?
goes, yeah, this kind of goes back to the 80s. And what happened is back in the day, American cartoons were very expensive to get, like G.I. Joe, Transformers, and the such. To get those syndicated down to Mexico, that cost big bucks. What didn't cost a lot of money was anime, actually, because you could import that fairly cheap comparatively. And so Dragon Ball was basically started getting shown all the time down there. You know how like we got DuckTales shown on a loop constantly? Well, they kind of got that
Yeah.
with Dragon Ball. And it got to the point too, it was so popular that they were actually getting Dragon Ball in Mexico and Latin America before America was by a good year or so. It was
Oh,
actually getting
wow.
localized. Yeah, it was getting localized there quicker than it was up here. So that basically leads to, and just the fact Mexicans love their Dragon Ball. It is massive. Everything was a fever pitch for this showdown between Goku and Jiren. Jiren, the strongest combatant that Goku would ever face. And this is so big that arenas are actually hosting viewing parties for this. Some as big as 15,000 people showing up at soccer arenas to watch this giant battle on a big screen. One problem for this particular episode, though, the viewing rights of the anime didn't really allow for mass public broadcastings like that, especially in Mexico. So Japan and their company sent a letter saying, like, you're not really allowed to do this, guys. This is breaking a bunch of, important trade treaties and this and that, or broadcast treaties. And Mexico wrote back being like, well, we're doing this anyway, so what you gonna do about it? And basically the Japanese God, what's the term for it? The diplomacy place.
Oh,
The
embassy.
there, thank you. The Japanese embassy in Mexico had to like draft up a whole lot of paperwork and be the in-between man for the Mexican government and Japan. And at the last moment, they were basically able to hammer out a deal, be like, okay, you could show it this once. And things went on as planned, and all across Mexico and Central America and Latin America, like soccer-sized arenas were showing the fight on it, and people just glued to their seats watching it. You can actually see like footages of it too, of thousands upon thousands of people, in a theater watching it, just losing their mind over the fight. I should say too, the animation's gotten really slick on some of those newer ones.
Yeah, they've got it really good.
Also, apparently the Jiren fight, pretty cool too. I have yet to watch it, but yeah, everybody seems to really like it. Also, another
Jiren,
fun
he's
fact.
what's he look like? Is he red with bald, whatever?
Yeah, he's kind of like, I think, red and white, bald sort of thing. Smooth skin.
Yeah,
Because
I probably
they
should
don't.
watch it just out of
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah, I guess he is not as strong as Broly, though, I guess, according to I guess Broly has like a higher ceiling, can become more powerful. Because I guess Broly's got something kind of like the Hulk, where the angrier he gets, the stronger he gets.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah. Here's a fun fact, though. Arale from Dr. Slump, Akira Toriyama, flat out says that yes, she can beat Goku in a fight. And I agree, because the reason Akira Toriyama says that he can beat her in a fight on the simple premise that she is a gag character. And when it comes to cartoons and comics, you can't beat a gag character because they can do gag character stuff like break the fourth wall and the such. They are not bound to reality's laws.
Makes sense. I mean, that's
Yeah.
why, like, Bugs Bunny would be a really bad
Exactly.
threat.
That's why Bugs Bunny could beat Superman, basically, is the fact that, Bugs Bunny could just, reach up his butthole and pull out kryptonite randomly for no real reason. Bet you didn't know that's where kryptonite came from, did you, Nate?
You'll never guess where kryptonite comes from.
Now we come to March 8th, 2024. Akira Toriyama's family announces that Toriyama has passed away 1 week prior on March 1st. Cause of death was an acute subdural hematoma. In case you don't know what that is, that's basically when you get concussion so bad your brain bruises and starts bleeding. That blood will pool up in your head and start pushing against your brain, kind of shoving it over to one side, causing all sorts of fun and bad problems leading to eventual death. Things that can cause this are basically just hitting your head really hard, can be exacerbated by both blood thinners or being drunk at the time of falling over.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, what actually happened, nobody really knows. The family doesn't say. So, I mean, honestly, my guess, probably getting out of the bathtub, had a couple beers in him, slipped, banged his head on this corner of the bathtub, which honestly is actually a way more people die than you would think. Or even just like slipping and falling and hitting your head. The giant from Jack and the Beanstalk. That's how he died in that Rick and Morty episode, remember? Slipped, fell, hit
That's
his head on the
right,
corner
he did.
table. Yep. Laying there just twitching. So, yeah, that's bummer of a way to go. The world is sad. And he died on March 8th, 2024. Also on March 8th, 2024, 2:03 p.m., G Fuel sends me a mass text email telling people the new caffeine-free formula of their Dragon Ball Z flavor is on sale. Get it while supplies last. Also on March 8th, 2024, 4:31 p.m., 2.5 hours later, G Fuel sends out a mass text apologizing profusely to everybody saying that was an auto text and pre-planned weeks in advance, and they were not trying to disrespect Toriyama's name in any way. It was a very apologetic text that came through. It was like, oh, hold up. We know what you're thinking. Although, honestly, deep down inside, I have a feeling they like saw that text about it go, and they're just like, nah, let it go out. It'll get people talking.
Apologize later.
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, got people talking about their new flavor or their discounted flavor of Dragon Ball Z. I don't remember what the flavor is. There's also caffeine free. What's the point of drinking G Fuel? On Twitter,
a G Fuel with caffeine free.
Some of them taste okay, but I don't know. I don't really like the G Fuel flavors as much as like Gamer Sups or other such things. Both of which could be a sponsor of Oft Off Topic if you want to. Hit us up. I will gladly tell people how awesome you are if you want to give us money. My opinion is purchasable.
That's right.
And that line later in the future is what would prevent Sean from becoming president of the United States of America.
Never mind all the other stuff.
Yeah, never mind all the other stuff. Just that one thing. On Twitter, the trending topic of Akira Toriyama and Dragon Ball surpassed United States President Joe Biden's State of the Union address, which was held at the same time of his death's announcement. Which it does not surprise me because nobody cares about the State of the Union address and everybody cares about Dragon Ball.
I think some people probably disagree with that, but I think by and large, that's true.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember the last time I watched a State of the Union address.
I catch the cliff notes at the very end.
Yeah, exactly. I'll just watch what SNL spoofs of it, and then I'll just go off that and just take that as gospel.
Right, this is what really happened.
So, yeah, Toriyama's death is announced. Everybody is really sad. Some of his fans are looking for Dragon Balls to this day to revive him. Some confused fans even stole his body, and they're burying it into a pet cemetery up in rural Maine, because supposedly it brings people back to life, but they gotta be careful, though. Ground is sour up there. Put in the ground isn't what comes out.
I love it. That was a pretty good impression of what's his face.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stories out there on that hill. You don't want to
Munster.
Yep.
I only know him for three things. I know him for, of course, Munsters. I know him for that, and then I know him for the judge on
My Cousin Vinny.
Cousin Vinny.
The two Utes.
What is a Ute?
What's a Ute? Yeah, I actually do that kind of impression, like the northeastern. Yeah, a lot of history up there. You don't want to go up that way, Mr. Johnson. All right, so actually, that's kind of all what I got.
Did you? I don't remember talking about the movie, like the live action American movie.
Oh, yeah, I didn't really get into that because he didn't really have a whole lot of input on that. I should have written down something because, he just didn't like it.
Oh, of course he hated it. I mean, because it was awful. I mean, I don't know. I like that movie because of how bad it is. It's just, it missed the mark on everything.
Yeah. That's kind of why I didn't bring it up, though, is because, I mean, we'll go over when we do a Dragon Ball episode. That's why I also didn't do a whole lot on Dragon Ball Z, because I figure eventually we might do a Dragon Ball episode. This is more about the man, Akira Toriyama.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Plus, I did actually, now that you mentioned, I did kind of want to look up one of those things too. I wanted to see if, like, before the live action movie came out, it was one of those things where Toriyama's like, yes, I fully approve. This will be wonderful. And then afterwards it's like, no. Because sometimes that happens. The movie studio backs up a truck full of money. It's like, hey, yeah.
Who likes money? Yay, we love money.
Dragon Ball creator Akira Toriyama was initially supportive of the announcement of a live-action adaptation and asked fans to treat the film as a different interpretation of his work. But after watching the film, he was so horrified at this adaptation of his work that he said to revive the series with the animated ...
Click.
Yeah, and I gotta go scroll and find the thing. Chow Yun-Fat was in that as Roshi.
Was. Yeah, they put money behind that movie. That's the upsetting thing, is they put the real money behind that movie. It's like, the people who made the movie clearly never watched the show.
Yeah, no. Yeah, that came out before the Avatar movie too, huh? That should have been like a glowing beacon of don't mess with the source material that much. Because, yeah, they were way off the mark on Dragon Ball Evolution. Way. Way off.
Way off the mark.
Way off. I never even saw it, but I saw enough of it to be like, oh, what have they done to my boy? What have they done? But yeah, apparently, according to this thing, the response to Toriyama hating this so much is actually what spurred him to revive the series with Dragon Ball Z Battle of the Gods.
No, fair enough.
Which is when we were talking about the movie where they were just like, Akira Toriyama is back, finally, yay! Which that explains why they were so up to hype at being like, you hated that movie? Well, guess who's back to do another movie?
Which, again, makes total sense. I mean, why, if it was me, I wouldn't want to keep the last thing, or maybe not the last thing, but like they released that, and it's like, okay, my name's attached to this, whether I want it to be one.
All right, because over time, eventually people might be like, oh yeah, of course Toriyama, directed that whole thing, even though it doesn't say it on the credits. Let's see. God Destruction is when Beerus showed up, which was based off of his cat. Neat. So now you know, Beerus is not a one of those Egyptian hairless cats. He's actually a Cornish Rex.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a hairless cat.
No, Cornish Rexes might be hair. Well, let's see the Cornish Rex. Watch, I'm going to look it up, and it's going to be like, oh, this is the Egyptian hairless cat. Non-Egyptian hairless, considering the breed originates in Cornwall, Great Britain. Cornwall, where cornholing was invented. Because, there's a hole in the wall. The Cornwall's got a hole. That's the cornhole. Never. Yes. So yeah, Cornish Rexes are actually not hairless. They just have very thin, fine down hair. Some of them have very short curly hair. Curly hair.
I like
Corley hair. Yeah, I like that movie, Corley Sue, starring John Belushi, or James Belushi, who was in, 9, The Last Resort, a future episode of Oft Off Topic.
No, we're not.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, we've got it uploaded.
That is true, yeah.
Yeah, we already did it. Yeah.
Sorry, as I said, I'm not doing well.
Yeah. Yeah, you do sound kind of sick, but you're doing well though. You don't actually sound sick. Although when I first heard you, when I first heard you, he does sound kind of sick, but yeah. So there we go, Nathan. That is the story of Akira Toriyama, his life, his death, and all sorts of fun stuff in between. Did you learn anything?
Actually, I did know a lot of the stuff, but there's a lot more of the intricacies. And again, Dragon Ball was a blind spot for me because I did pick up the DBZ, and even then, I don't know, I hadn't paid it. I know there's a new series, Super, has been going on for a while. I started watching it. The animation was kind of disappointing, but
I've heard Super was kind of depending on where you watch it, I think.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. I mean it's Dragon Ball, or Dragon Ball Z. I mean Dragon Ball Z people, they're there. It's just I don't know. I think I would have been fine if they left it dead.
Yeah, I do highly recommend Dragon Ball Abridged. It is wonderful. Not only is it humorous, but I also do some very emotional parts very well too. And also it ends right after the Cell Saga, so it's not super duper long either.
So yeah, yay.
Akira Toriyama. This will be your one-stop podcast for all your knowledge in Akira Toriyama, because not a whole lot else to learn about him. Like I said earlier, I mean, we could have gone more into Dragon Ball and stuff, but I wanted to focus more on actual Toriyama and some of his other stuff, because most people know Dragon Ball, and there's enough stuff there for Dragon Ball that we could probably do a whole episode on it, talking about the characters, this, that, some of the behind-the-scenes things that happened with that.
I mean, Dragon Ball itself is it's a
well, I mean, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, yeah.
Yeah. And GT and all that stuff.
Yeah, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super, and I think there's even another one out now too, potentially.
Maybe. I mean, it just kept on going, so.
Yep, as long as it makes money, it will continue to make more stuff.
Yes, it will.
And that series will continue to make money for a good long while, I have a feeling. Oh yeah, there's also Dragon Ball Z Kai, which only lasted a couple of years.
Well, Kai was just a redoing of the first one.
Is that one that was okay?
Yeah, it's not. It wasn't its own series. They just when the first when the Saiyan saga and the Ginyu saga and the Frieza saga came to America, it was heavily edited.
Gotcha. And I heard it wasn't even that good of an editing they did, really.
That was stupid. I mean, there's at one point someone got their head cut off, and it was just they kind of super glued it back on. And then there's scenes where when Gohan was getting beaten up, a cloud kind of covered it, and it was just there was a bunch of other small things they did to it. It just they're sticking the oh no, everyone's lived. It's just they did their best to sanitize it for Toonami.
Boo. Home for infinite losers. Da 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 da.
Right.
Home for infinite losers. Yes, because heaven forbid people see hell written on a shirt. Or think Goku was.
And Mr. Satan is Mr. What's Mr.
Hercule.
Satan? He is Hercule.
Hercule, yep.
There's so many dumb changes.
Which is funny because if you think about it, he's actually the strongest non-Z fighter human on the planet.
Right?
Yeah.
But he's also
yeah.
like they paint him as a coward though, but then again it's like, well, it's not
And
is it cowardice? Like, yeah, you're the strongest person on this planet, but this motherfucker can like
he also
destroy a building.
he nutted up when he in the Cell saga. Remember, he had to grab Android like 18's head and throw it at Cell or whatever it was, or no, he had to throw
Yeah.
Android's head next to Gohan or whatever. Yeah, he kind of sucked it up and did some stuff there. Also, he did actually attack Cell at one point. He just ran up and tried to punch him and got smacked and flew a quarter mile into a mountain and didn't die somehow.
Very true.
So,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. So he did take a
so
swing.
I guess he's one of those like cowards until you know he needs to be step up. Well, I mean, then again, also he only stepped up because there was a camera there.
That is true. What you're saying is that for people to truly be brave, they must have a camera on them all the time. So our truly brave people are going to be the social media influencers. Camera always on them. All right. Well, we've got enough stuff. Now we're kind of just rambling.
Yeah, I know you go lay down. I'm like,
yeah.
This is where the ending jingle goes. This is where the ending jingle goes. I don't know if we need one. I don't know if we'll get one. But if we do, then here is where it goes.